Yeah, I always liked tungsten because it's, you know, it was a strategic mineral. Although there's only 100,000 tons being used, but there's not too many workable projects in the world. You can count them in, you know, less than 10 probably, less than 5 that in the next 5 years that will get up and running in some ways. So I think, you know, that's where I think there's a lot of opportunities. And when this trade war thing happened, I thought, oh, maybe this could be a catalyst, you know. It's, you know, China might say, you know, it's our stuff. We're not going to be so easily, well, freely giving it away or selling it away. And on the other side of the wall, I guess, you know, they're saying the same thing. So maybe that could prompt that price to move. I think it's is it sub 300 MTU now? Yeah,
so it's a good price.
So I remember, you know, you're saying 300, you could make money depending on how you sort things out.
Yeah, look, definitely. I mean, it's at a level where, you know, the price, I think both sides, the producers and the concentrate makers are pretty happy with that. And that's where, you know, in terms of Australian projects, it looks pretty good as well with where the Australian dollar is. It really gives you a competitive advantage against some of your peers elsewhere, especially, although the US does have some old projects, you know, essentially they're selling into US dollars, where we're able here in Australia to produce in Australian dollars and sell into US dollars. So it gives you a real advantage.
Yeah, especially if the Aussie dollar drops more than where it is, to make things really interesting for the Aussie projects.
Yeah, no, look, it certainly does. And I think one other thing that we're looking at is, you know, this blue sky policy in China. And it's something that, you know, you're seeing maybe a perfect storm of factors coming together, you know, that you know, it's come from the top. And people, you know, I guess as you and I have travelled to China and we've been inside Beijing and you can't even see the sun, is that people are sick and tired. You know, China's a wealthy nation now, and they're willing to pay the price, and they're willing to enforce the laws to ensure that companies produce to the same standard that we do here. And that's been factored in our costs for a long time. So that competitive advantage that Chinese producers probably once had has fallen away somewhat, and that's where I see, you know, on top you've got that environment and that pricing pressure and that competitiveness that's coming in, because projects here in Australia, you have to produce at a standard that isn't going to damage the environment. And yeah, so I think it's potentially game on. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Good point. I mean, I didn't completely forgot about that environmental factor, and you throw in the trade war. And I know even 5 years ago they said that they were already starting this cleanup, and a lot of these tungsten projects were probably needing another 0.1% to make it work cleanly. So I think, you know, that's actually quite a good point, because it's you know, 5 years down the road, everyone wants clean, and Xi Jinping is going there with the big stick, making sure everyone complies. Yeah, I mean, look at the iron ore price. You know, who would have known that? You know, we're back to would be almost there now, the same price, right?
Yeah.
For the high grade ones.
Yep.
And I remember people not long ago, maybe a year ago, people approaching me to say they're looking for iron ore that's, you know, sub 55, but they can beneficiate it to 60s, you know, because they're all looking for that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So, well, thanks, Mark. I mean, that's quite a good summary of where things at. I mean, do you have anything else you think you could throw in there?
Look, I reckon we've covered it all. I mean, the other one that's always been tantalising is India, you know, whether they'll be a player, and they've been looking around at projects. And the other one I love is the US infrastructure, you know, in terms of demand for tungsten, you know, because there's so much work that needs to be done there, and if that really gets a leg up and gets funded, you know, that development we saw in China is going to be replicated in the rebuilding of America. So I think there's plenty of things for investors to consider.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, things that we didn't even touch on was possibility of, you know, a tungsten battery that's sort of sitting on the sideline, that whether it happens or not. I mean, if it did happen, it's quite big, because we're talking instantaneous charging. I mean, that will sell like hotcakes, you know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, in the building in America, people don't consider it, because everyone's sort of been looking at the China building, you know, they've got that growth and everything else. But, you know, the US just looking for that
Yeah.
growth as well. All right, thanks, Mark. Fantastic to kick this thing, my little project off, and let's see how we go from there.
Righto. Thanks, Noel.
All right,
It's great.
thanks, Mark.